in Sync 366 video series coming to you inside today because it's warm outside. And so I want to begin by introducing myself. I am Kiana Sage and I guide people to peace, and I use an approach that is called energy psychology, and that is because everything runs in patterns. Yes, and when we adjust those patterns, we can feel better, more aligned, more congruent within. So we're living in alignment to our purpose, to our soul, to our inner knowing. And that's what being in sync is all about. And that's what I help people do. Today's topic is coming to you because of yesterday's YouTube Live, and I know it's 234, by the way, and it's coming to you from yesterday's live where one of the people in the chat was talking about specifically that he was unable or felt incapable of connecting to his emotions. And so therefore he just avoided everybody and everything. And he was so much more aware of himself. But I think so many people are uneducated when it comes to emotional intelligence that they do not. Namaste. Hey, you guys are here. Welcome. So I think we're talking about from yesterday's chat, emotional intelligence. So I thought I would come on here and just give like some fundamental basics about emotional intelligence. And then we'll go with your questions or chats about your thoughts about emotional intelligence. So one thing I will say is I have been consulting to executives around the topic of emotional intelligence for, over 20 years. And the reason why that's my focus is because that's my forte, and the emotions are the doorway into leveraging success. You know, most people do not feel successful, not because of their thinking, but because of how they feel emotionally. So the key to your emotions is knowing how to, one, address them, number two, leverage them, and number three, use that inner information to adjust, right? Because the more that you can adjust, the better you will be long term. So the basic fundamentals of the emotional intelligence is your inner world. Essentially, emotions are your inner life. That is where most people are disconnected, is because that they spend so much time in the mind, thinking, strategy, and the mind is very active. And when the mind is very active, it disconnects people from their emotional intelligence. I would say that your intelligence, your inner intelligence, is far more superior than your intellect. However, most people have been conditioned to stay in the mind, and it's that conditioning that weakens their emotional resilience. And that's where people become really just emotionally immature, meaning they don't even know what to do with their emotions. They think they have to do something with their emotions. And here is fundamental number one. Your emotions do not require a reaction. Your emotions do not require any doing. Your emotions do not require you say anything. All the emotional body is asking for is to be acknowledged and recognized. That the inner world becomes congruent. That's what emotions are showing you, is where you're incongruent within. So let's just say you're one of those people who is avoidant, okay? Now, another word for avoidance is in denial. So those two go hand in hand. And why do people want to deny their emotions? Well, because they're uncomfortable, right? They're uncomfortable because they can't control them. And people try to stuff them down and not feel. And that's what causes them to not trust people, not trust things, not trust situations, and most importantly, not trust themselves, because their thinking is getting them into situations that is incongruent with their inner world. So they basically deny this inner world. Let's just say a person's highly anxious. And they want to go on prescription medicine to address the anxiety instead of learning how to manage their emotions. Most people feel like by the time they go to get medicine that it's out of control and it's uncontrollable. And that is never the case. The inner world is just looking for acknowledgement and, may I say, compassionate witnessing. So your emotions are just a tool to explain and help you manage your outward domain. So everything on the outside is created from the inside. When you alleviate the avoidance and the denial, then you take that power away and everything is within your domain, right? But this perception that people have who are in the mind that avoiding is a good strategy, it's a good strategy until you become sick, because avoidance and denial will cause what's called soul sickness, because everything in the physical manifestation always begins in the non-physical. So when you have a soul sickness, and I see everybody just dropped off, nobody really wants to hear about soul sickness because they don't talk about this in med school. They don't talk about this in therapy sessions, which goes to tell you they don't know about the energetic systems. And it's really, I'm not going to say a blanket statement of that they don't know, but most of them do not have a clue about what is going on in their emotional body. So everything that happens in the physical body will occur in the non-physical. So when you disconnect from your emotions, let's just say you are in denial or avoidance. I'm just going to use an extreme case of this. I'm going to use an experience I had with my mother. And when my mother was sick and dying, she had done everything right? She ate all the right food, she drank the vitamins, she ate the vitamins, she drank water, she always carried water with her everywhere. She wasn't a drinker, she wasn't abusive, she wasn't any of those things. However, she was not good with her emotions. I didn't realize this until she was close to her death and I was on her deathbed sitting next to her when she expressed that she never really felt that she could cry. Like she was never comfortable crying. She didn't express that sorrow that she may have had, disappointment, grief that she may have had about whatever the situation. And on her deathbed, that was a regret. However, what that showed me, really, it changed my life. Because when people start to shut down, turn off, avoid and deny their emotional body, you can't help but create vulnerabilities in your field that cause a weakness, because your emotions are your direct relationship with your soul. So, you know, you're going to be off your purpose. You're going to feel lost. You're going to be doing on that hamster wheel, doing life and be separate from your life purpose. Now, that's totally up to you, but for emotional intelligence, you want to be able to acknowledge what your emotions are expressing. So an emotion like sorrow, or let's just say anger or avoidance, those just need to be acknowledged. You know, any emotion that you have is just about acknowledgement. And I think therapists and psychiatrists and this whole medical field has made this whole illusion about emotions like a piranha. You know, you're not ill-equipped. You just haven't been told, hey, watch, pay attention, listen to your emotions. If you're angry, look at it. Where are you angry? Where do you feel angry? Where is it happening in your body? Find it in your body. And I think that I am doing this because I want to get this information out, and then I'm going to take a breath and look at the comments, okay? But I think it's important for you all to understand that your emotions just need to be acknowledged. So what are you feeling? Where are you feeling it? Where is it happening in your body? When you watch it, do you see, sense, or feel it? When you see, sense, or feel it, does it move? Does it change? Does it go somewhere else? And I think when people stay tethered to their emotion, let's just say something strong like an anger, and they really are committed to feeling that feeling, it will transmute and go away. And then all of a sudden you're not angry anymore. But it's the suppression of the emotions, it's the oppression of emotions that people do not feel. Thanks, Erica. Eric, thanks. I appreciate your comment. Of course, I always see when Eric comments. Okay, y'all, I'm going to go to the comments and see what you have to say. Thank you. My name is Kiana. Hello, Philippines. Do I read physics? I have, yes. Spain, good to see you. Can you explain why I keep drinking even though I am just 3 months sober? Okay, addiction, I did a whole series on addiction. But the crux of addiction is a lack of love, okay? Now, the reason why you want to keep drinking even though you've been sober is that there are some patterns that are going to be running in your energy fields, both emotionally, physically, mentally, and spiritually. So you want to start to feel your emotions and feel it through all of your bodies. And as you begin to feel your desire for drinking is going to become less because your intelligence is going to increase. So you will be less enticed to be in lower frequencies when you feel the emotions that are keeping you in this impulsive state. I hope that's helpful. I've been avoiding having to talk about it because I want to deny it. The denial is not that you want to drink. The denial that you want to address is the feelings that it feels like to be uncontrollable or to be what's the word that I'm looking for? Asatiated. You want to feel full. So what I would offer you, the adventures of Phil Cosby, is to notice the feelings of love within you. And when you notice the feeling of love within you, any little feeling of love within you, you want to find it. It's there. And then you want to focus on it and watch it expand and grow. Somebody wants to hear about soul illness. I'll have to do that on another video because this video I really wanted to talk about emotional intelligence. When you say you become sick, would you be able to give some scenarios to define what that may be in regards to ignoring your emotions? Spark Plug, there is an excellent book, and I don't say that about many books or authors because I think that many people are manipulated into reading these very highly marketed books that are really not that great. But this is an excellent read, and it's called When the Body Says No. And it's by Dr. Gabor, Gabor. And he's out of Canada, and the book is When the Body Says No. And you can find lots of YouTubes on him, but I think the book is really powerful in explaining what happens to people when they suppress or oppress their emotions. So the key is really not to focus on the sickness so much as what are you repressing or suppressing, and why? Why don't you feel comfortable sharing your emotions? What beliefs are attached to that? Why can't you express your feelings? What beliefs are attached to that? Why can't you feel your feelings? Why don't you know how? What ways have you been taught to not feel your feelings? The best communication model that I teach all my clients that are open to it is called nonviolent communication. And it's really simple. When you learn how to understand your emotions, you don't even have to identify them, but if you identify them in a communication, it changes how the communication goes. So emotional intelligence, really, when you understand your feelings, becomes a leveraging point. And that's why it's more powerful to have emotional intelligence than not. Why are most people weak in emotional intelligence? Because we are conditioned out of it. Why are we conditioned out of our emotions and to be in touch? Well, that's another story that I don't want to go in. Okay. When I get anxious, I feel my teeth grinding. Okay, that's a great awareness. So when you have an awareness of anxiety, what you want to do is feel. What am I avoiding? So your body is always going to give you signals of when there are feelings that need to be felt. So your teeth grinding would be a perfect example of an awareness to have of when there's an emotion that needs to be felt. What the emotion is doesn't matter, because you don't need to judge any of your emotions. You just need to feel them. So I hope that helps you, teeth grinding. Thank you. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Luke. Hot mama. All right. I'll be the one to build you up. I'll never be the one that downs you. You know, there are so many people on here. Wilson, good to see you. That's one thing I've learned about these chats is people will say a lot of nasty things. It's so amazing how you have survived this road and can see how far you've come. It's a miracle. Yeah, it's a miracle. I'm just looking for questions. Harry, somebody says they want to read Harry Potter. Okay. That doesn't really help your consciousness grow. If you want to be entertained and checked out and escape, that's a good way to do it. Escapism consciousness is a thing, and it's problematic because it makes you vulnerable energetically. No, I am not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, and I do not subscribe to those dogmas, but thank you for asking. David, you look radiant today. I hope it's a lovely day. Thank you. You observed incorrect. So what does that tell you about your perceptions and your thinking? Like, challenge your thinking about how you perceive or judge others. Oh, interesting. My mother has been suppressing her emotions for many years. How do I bring this up to her? You know, Peter, that's a really honorable way to look at your mother. I will tell you, it's not your job, Peter, to make your mother feel her emotions. You know, I will tell you from my own personal experience, I did everything I possibly could, and I am skilled with the emotional intelligence to help my mother learn how to express. She was just very fearful, and you know, it's not our job. We can't walk through our parents' fears for them. They have to be willing to do it themselves. And a lot of people do not even acknowledge that they're in fear. They deny that they're in fear, although they live like they're in fear a lot. A lot of people who are anxious are in fear. So my suggestion, Peter, is that you look at your emotions in relationship to your mother and feel those, because that's your point of power. You can't make somebody else feel, but you can have an experience of your mother shutting down or being in denial. Like for me, it was very upsetting. I would see how my mother was with my brother and my sister, and it was very different than how she was with me. And you know, I will also say that parents have different relationships with their children. So, you know, those relationships change how they express as well. But I would, Peter, just focus on what is your emotional experience with your mother who doesn't express, because chances are you'll meet a woman and partner with a woman who does very similar patterns as your mother. And if you don't want to repeat those, you're the one that's going to have to break the pattern. And you break the pattern by accessing your own emotional intelligence and what it means to you. Okay. Sparkplug is saying, when it comes to acknowledging emotions, why would one be sure that they're acknowledging the right emotion and the one that they don't realize that they're feeling deep down? I would say, Sparkplug, as you become more practiced in feeling your emotions, you will learn that there's no wrong emotion, right? If it's there, it's there. It's the isness of the oneness. It's an emotion is there, it's there. And it's not about not wanting it to be there. It's about acknowledging what is. That's really what emotional intelligence is. It's like seeing what is and then leveraging that pivot point to the direction that you want to go. But you can't do that without acknowledging what is. And I think this is where most strategies fail, is because people don't realize that they're in denial of their emotions. So I have so many stories I could tell, but what's most important is that you're feeling. And you make a practice every day to feel whatever is there and feel it. This is the most important thing, is learn to feel it through your physical body, your mental body, and your emotional body, right? Because as you feel it through your bodies, then you can transmute it totally and fully. If you don't feel it through all the bodies, it'll just go through one aspect, and you want it to go through all aspects so you don't have to continue to repeat that pattern, right? Okay. Oh, everybody jumped off. Hi, I'm American USA. Okay. What's the definition of consciousness? I think consciousness is not about being defined personally. It's about an experience of expansion. So consciousness is only going to be accessed when you are in connection with that inner world. And that's the only time, in my experience, that you can expand in consciousness, because it's not a thought process, it's an experience. It's an experience of expansion in dimensions, and it's not one-dimensional, it's multi-dimensional. So you, depending on the level of consciousness that you're at, depends on the frequency and the patterns and the information and wisdom that you have to access to. Oh, thanks, Eric. Thank you. Thank you. You like the, somebody said they like the picture in the back. Thank you. Yeah, it's nice. I love it. What is this channel about? This channel is about, this specific channel is about aligning for emotional intelligence. Peter says, thank you for the insight. I never thought of it that way. Usually I would expect the automation-like responses and get frustrated. Okay, beautiful. So oftentimes what I would say, Peter, too, and this is not exclusive to your mother, this is other people too. When people are, let's just say, shut down emotionally, they do not have the awareness that you are having. Okay, so we can't expect them to have awareness about things or want the awareness about things if they're not prepared. So that would, because oftentimes when people are in denial or in avoidance, it's a coping mechanism. It's not a very good one, but people have gotten so accustomed to it because it's socially acceptable to keep your mouth shut, and instead of express yourself. So when you get frustrated, where do you feel it? Typically, your frustration will go to one spot, and then it might, after you've gone through all acknowledging it, you'll feel it in other spots. Peter, as you get more practice in your emotional intelligence practice, what you will notice is your frustration will just go away. You won't have the same reaction to her because you've already felt it. And so because you're not holding it, it will change how you experience your mother. So that's a beautiful thing about emotional intelligence, is that one person can change the entire interaction with just being more aware and more congruent. Because those people who are not aware of their emotions, they go off the handle. I'll just give you one example of one client I had. This is going back many years, but he would call me and just yell at me on the phone. And so finally I said, where is your office? I'm going to see you when I come into town next, and we're going to have a conversation. He was so angry on the phone. And to me, the anger was just a call for help. So I went into his office and he cried for 45 minutes. He just needed somebody to hear him. Now, is that everybody? I do this for a living. I do healing for a living. Just being present and listening to people can help them heal. And acknowledging them, because a lot of times people have anger, but what's underneath it is sadness, despair, grief. I mean, it could be a million things. And I ended up working with this gentleman for 4 years, and it started off with him yelling at me. So, what does that say about me? I definitely, back in those days, I liked having those tough conversations all the time. And I worked with a lot of people who were emotionally shut down. And it was crazy to me that I was even working where I was working, because these people were so emotionally shut down. But once people learn how to navigate their emotional ups and downs, and I'm not saying about control. When I say manage, I mean really listen to it. What are your emotions telling you? What do you need to adjust? Because when people make emotional decisions, it's almost always the wrong decision. Okay. How many hours did I work out today? I exercise quite frequently. Today I did a bit of exercise, maybe an hour and a half. Somebody is asking if I'm transgender, and I would say, look at how many of you all are buying into that hidden agenda to deteriorate the feminine energy. Take it somewhere else. I'm not buying in on it. I am 100% female, proud of it, and I do not agree with the transgender movement. Talk about disconnected from people's emotions, from their center point. People are confused because they're not willing to get in touch. We must be willing to get in touch. I love how God made you beautiful. Thank you. That's why I'm keeping this notes. Yeah. People come on here and say, I should change. And I just think it's so crazy what people say about other people. But, you know, I am strong in who I am. I am not going to curtail who I am to appease the masses. I mean, that is so silly. Anyways, I think emotional intelligence is the key to our ability to manage our mind. And so many people have their minds running amok. Oh, somebody's saying, very true. Keep going strong. Amen. Yes. Any questions about emotional intelligence? I gave some of the basics about how to feel your emotions. Once you learn how to feel your emotions, then you can leverage them. And that's really where you become much stronger. The other thing that will happen when you start to understand your emotions, you will start to see patterns and certain things that will trigger you. So that will bring you into a place of appreciation for your triggers, because if you're getting triggered, that means you're growing. And if you're being triggered, that means you have emotions that need attending, and there's something that needs your attention. So check that out. And what else is there about emotions? I think the people that are in avoidance and denial rely too heavily on their intellect to make sense of things and to process things. And you will be far better served with processing through your heart and your emotions than you will ever be through processing intellectually. So many people ask, can I read a book? Can I read a book? Can I read a book? No, do the practice, do the practice, do the practice. You could read your books later. You should be practicing your emotional, getting in touch with your emotions every day. And if you're really attuned, all day. So you have an incident, something ticks you off. Where are you feeling it? Why are you upset? What's going on? You know, people should not be getting road rage unless they're totally disconnected. And part of the reason why there's so much violence is because people are disconnected. They think they have to do something in order to address their emotions. Take a pill. I had somebody send me a message the other day who's having long haul COVID or something like that, where they are being negatively impacted by the effects of COVID, and they're on antidepressants for it. Well, that's only going to compound the issue. Medicine is not intended to be a long-term treatment. It's intended to be a Band-Aid. But when you're covering up your emotions, you can't feel them because those medicines numb you. And another word for that is they disconnect you. And what happens when you're disconnected is you are vulnerable for manipulation of the mind, and you won't even know it. Anyways, there's my 2 cents on emotional intelligence. I hope you found this helpful. It's been about 30 minutes. I don't see any questions here. I'll just wait to see if you guys have any questions. Yep, that is from Thailand. And if you look close, it's got birds in the silver up here. And it's just a beautiful picture. And then that is my lily that I've had for about 20 years, if you could believe that. Thank you. Thanks, Sparkplug. I appreciate you. What if I hate my job? Should I change jobs or should I change? Well, hate is such a strong emotion. So first I would feel the discord of that hate within you all the way. That's number 1. Number 2, I would consciously choose to find things that you appreciate about your job, where you're at, as many as you could possibly find all the time. And I don't think there's anything wrong with looking for another job and finding another place if where you are at does not resonate. And when you say hate, that sounds like you don't resonate with it. And I have an entire program for free on this platform, Careers in the New Paradigm, to help people in your particular situation. Peter is saying, my understanding is that emotional intelligence is something that learned from parents, home, early environment, and if so, no role for EQ models. Well, first of all, I would say all those models are are mostly done from therapists that have people pigeonholed into a particular way of thinking of how they are, which is not beneficial for your emotional intelligence. So that's number one. Any one of those tools that they have is just a tool to basically learn and understand yourself more. So a model is for understanding and learning about yourself. It is not intended to be, this is who I am. So for example, those people that use Myers-Briggs, that is not the intention to say, this is who I am. Your identity is not where you've been. It's not your past. It's not your behaviors. Your identity is who you are and what you're aligned with within. So for me, my true identity is with God, and there's nothing else that I identify with personally. I could say I have other aspects of myself for certain. So let me get back to your original question. Emotional intelligence is not always going to be based on your parental. It's going to be based on exposure. So exposure in learning, whether you learn from traditional schools or whether you learn in experimental learning, those are very different ways of learning. So I have what's called a learning disability. So my way of learning is very different than traditional methods. And I also find it's much more impactful to learn through experiential learning. But I've always seen patterns that nobody else saw. I could see patterns in conversation, in behavior, in communication, in teams. That's one of my gifts. I've always had that gift of seeing things differently than other people. So emotional intelligence is really about your inner alignment. And do we get influenced from our parents? Yes. Do we get influenced from our environments? Yes. But is that determine your emotional intelligence? Absolutely not. You determine that, in my opinion, by your ability to go within. Yes, Peter's asking, can I learn on my own? Yeah, of course you can. Hey, Alyssa, good to see you. Of course you can learn on your own. That's why I do these videos, because a lot of people don't understand that their way of learning that works the best is through experience. And so we must begin to experience ourselves differently in order to grow. As we grow, we can expand and access levels of consciousness that we didn't know before. They become unlocked. And once you unlock the power of your emotions, you become empowered. You become a sovereign being. You become powerful. You can't be ruled by your fears because you have the emotional intelligence and maturity to say, that's my fear. That fear is not going to determine my behavior or my actions or my decisions. That's empowerment. Latinas, no, it's okay. Latinas is saying, I'm sorry, ma'am, for judging you earlier. People judge all the time. No harsh feelings. I'm not taking it personally. I just think it's an offering and an invitation for you to look at how you're seeing things. And when you see things a particular way, you box out other potentials. And do you really want to do that? I don't. I mean, I wouldn't sit here and listen to a psychologist or psychologist. I wouldn't. This channel is about alignment and being in sync. And today we're talking about emotional intelligence. Hard to explain, but she's pretty smart. Okay. Faith over fear, 100%. But when people don't understand their fears, they get ruled by them. Fears can be very, very tricky. And I think this is such a good point. When you don't have a high emotional intelligence, fears will determine your behavior. They will determine how you communicate, and they will determine your ability to access higher levels of consciousness. So you really want to, I have my own methods that I do with my clients to address fears, but you should have a practice for identifying fears. Like, know what you're afraid of. What are you afraid of? When you're afraid, what are you afraid of? Get real with your fears. Like, what are you afraid of? Some people say, I'm afraid of success. They're not afraid of success. Are you kidding? No. If they go deeper, they'll learn what they're afraid of. They're just saying that because they heard somebody say that, which is another program, by the way. And people buy into programs and then they get lost. Peter, oh, I'm so glad that was helpful for you. I'm really excited, Peter, to hear how things go with your mother. I think you have an opportunity to really build on your relationship with your mother that is without frustration, which, everybody has frustrations from their parents, but if you could take that frustration out of that relationship, how much more could you appreciate them, why they're there? Alex, we work on kindness here. If you can't be kind, you can go. Latina says, I'm afraid of homelessness. I make about $74K a year. How do you tackle that fear? Well, first of all, congratulations. You have a very lucrative job. But are you the same person that said they hated their job? I can't remember. How do you, so the homelessness is not the real fear, Latina. So you want to go below homelessness. So what else would there be? So is there more that you're afraid of? I'm afraid of being without a home. I'm afraid of being without security. I'm afraid of being, what is at the root of homelessness? Not having enough, I think, would be at the root of it. So when you go to not having enough and you see that you have enough, like you're living, you're eating, you have shelter, you have your needs met, that would be a good opportunity for you to begin to connect with your heart and to start to trust your heart and to understand that fear is a component of keeping you separate from your heart. So you want to feel the fears that we just listed, like not having enough, and find out where that is in your body, and you want to feel it 100% all the way through. And at first it might take a few moments, but then it'll go away. And then if you notice it comes back, because oftentimes it's a pattern, go to it again, feel it all the way through and watch that fear go away. And then once the fear is gone, you can connect to your heart. I'm not a therapist. I'm not trained in therapy. I'm not a psychologist. I am just somebody who specializes in emotional intelligence and also healing. Alex, that wasn't very much of a compliment if you didn't get my message. You need to learn how to compliment differently. Calling somebody names is not a compliment, Alex. And that would be a lack of emotional maturity. So this is a good lesson for everybody here. Eric is saying, okay, Eric is saying, pray for me, pray for you, pray for us. Yes, sending you God's sovereign free blessings, Eric. Tyler Jones. Eric, you're moving in October. Okay, where are you moving to, Eric? Healing is always going to be, Peter's asking a great answer. Healing is always going to be an inside job. Yes, and the reason is because that's what we're here to do. That's how we raise in our awareness. That's how we raise in our consciousness. That's how we change our perceptions. And that's how we keep ourselves from being manipulated. Okay. Latinas is saying, I feel like I've kind of been humbled a little. Latinas, well, first of all, I want to say thank you for sharing and being so vulnerable. Humbled is a great indication that your ego mind has been put aside. We always want our ego mind to be put aside so we can really contend with what's real, right? Because the ego mind and fears will always lead us astray. It will lie, lie, lie. So to be humbled is a great indication that you're on the right track. Okay, Alex, see you later. Do I have any advice for when it comes to practicing emotional intelligence with individuals who may be neurodiverse? Well, first of all, I would say spark plug is that my advice is to practice emotional intelligence all the time. It doesn't matter who you're with. Once you have an innate intelligence within you ignited, why would you turn it off for some people and other people and not others? So you always want your emotional intelligence to be turned on, number one. You always want to be sensing through your emotions because that's going to tell you what's really happening. I could feel people when they lie in email or in front of me because I could feel their bodies. I could feel their energy bodies. So and that's a skill and also a tool. Now, if I'm working with somebody who's incongruent, I will help them adjust so they're more balanced. But when I meet people that are just meeting out at friends or whatever, I don't say anything. So you always use the information you're getting emotionally to adjust yourself, not them. So what I would ask, if this were me, so first of all, I would say somebody who's labeling themselves as neurodiverse is already coming from a very limited perspective. When people are coming from a limited perspective, they're also in a state of constriction. When people are in a state of constriction, oftentimes their fight or flight is on. Now, I also have a video on how to turn fight or flight off. You'd have to go back and find it. I don't know what number it is, but it's there. And you can turn fight or flight off. So that might be a tool for them if you can find the video to share it with them. But feeling overwhelmed is also going to create what's called density in the energy field. And that density slows down energy. It also changes how our pathways can operate. So, spark plug, I would say what I would recommend for you is to understand what that person is reflecting back to you about you. In what ways are you constricted? In what ways are you limited? In what ways are you not expressing yourself? In what ways may you be overwhelmed that need to be addressed? Because there's always going to be a resonance. Okay, Eric says he doesn't know where he's going yet. Okay, Eric, keep us posted. I'll be doing videos all year long, so maybe I could do a video about moving. CA is asking, is emotional intelligence something that is learned or something that is instinctive? Emotional intelligence is absolutely something that can be learned 100%. I think some people are more attuned to it because they're more accepting and less judgmental. But even when I was spent a lot of time in my mind, now I spend a lot of time in my heart. You know, our emotions are just there to be witnessed. That's it. And do you need to be a high intellect to understand that? No. What it does take is patience. And I think a lot of people who spend time in their mind, they don't feel or think they have the patience to contend with their power, because we've been conditioned out of our power. And so to be emotionally intelligent means that we are really owning who we are. We know who we are. We're willing to align ourselves. We're willing to feel feelings that are uncomfortable. In fact, when I was some of my training, I think, Peter, you might like this. One of my trainings that I did for myself is I would purposely put on a TV show that caused me to be uncomfortable to watching it, so I could keep myself in neutrality. And every time I saw something on the show, and I can't remember what the show was that I would watch, but it was a series, and it was really disturbing how people were treating one another. And what happened is that by the end of the series, I was able to watch very disturbing and upsetting scenes without having my emotions take over and really direct my mind, which is, you know, my tendency is really to go, or I would say my old tendency was to really be in disbelief. Like, I really couldn't believe how absurd and mean and hurtful people are to one another. And I would see this and I'd be like, are people really like that? They were really like that. And so what that showed me is my reaction was so extreme that I was like, okay, Kiana, you really gotta train yourself to be a compassionate witness during uncomfortable times. And I have clients tell me very uncomfortable truths about themselves and about their experiences, and I compassionately witness them in that space, because that's how we heal. That's how we heal ourselves, and that's how we heal one another. So I hope that I answered that question, CA. My friend is not working from 2014. Why? He is already in debt. I don't know why your friend's not working, but I have a program on here if you want to share it with them. It's called Careers in the New Paradigm, because I do believe that how people are working and getting jobs is not based on their experience, but it's based on their alignment. What are they aligned to? So your friend may be aligned to debt. Please, how do you deal with anger? Duffy, anger. Anger is fire. So if you think of the elements, we have fire, earth, water, air, ether, right? We have those elements. So anger is closely tied to fire. So it's a fire element. And it could be extremely valuable once you learn how to channel anger into a direction. So how do you deal with anger? I would say you do not deal with anger. You acknowledge anger, okay? Anger is just an emotion, just like love, okay? They have different powers, right? And different leveraging points. But anger is a really good one to understand. Number one, what is triggering the anger? Number two, when you feel angry, how are you processing it? You must be able to feel it. Feel the anger repeatedly over and over. If you're chronically angry, feel it all the time, right? You want to look for it. You want to spot that anger. You want to become a master of managing anger, okay? Once you master managing your anger, then you want to understand what the triggers are. Once you understand what the triggers are, then you can start to see where the patterns are. Where are you weak? Where are you vulnerable? Because your anger is showing you that you are vulnerable. And you cannot leverage your anger if you're vulnerable. So once you understand your triggers and then you recognize what happens when you get angry, then you redirect your attention from anger. Okay, I'm angry. I'm really angry. Then you have a goal and you redirect your attention towards your goal. So you take all that force that's in that anger and redirect it into that goal or that passion or that focus that you want to create. So you want to use that anger to put it in towards creation. So I hope that's helpful for you. Bear, okay, good to see you here. Hopefully that's helpful about anger. Anger is so powerful. Peter is saying it's so counterintuitive because all the bad, hurt things come from the outside, from others. So let me share this with you, Peter. The inside is what creates the outside. So when you are experiencing hurt or things, that's an indication of something that needs to be addressed within. Okay, Duffy is saying, I barely get angry, but I easily get angry in my relationship. How can I help myself? Well, I would suggest that your relationship is doing you a good service because your partner should be triggering you emotionally. And that is showing you where you need to heal. It's showing you that you have vulnerabilities and weaknesses within yourself that need attention. And that partner of yours is doing a beautiful job in triggering them. So the partner, when we're in relationships, they should trigger you emotionally. You shouldn't be a zombie, right? We're supposed to feel, and we're not supposed to always be comfortable. We're not always supposed to be having fun. Relationships are about growing. And if you're not growing, you're not changing. And if you're not changing, you're not evolving. And, I don't know how powerful your relationship's going to be. I know couples that they appear to be having fun and they are so disconnected emotionally because they do not have real conversations because they're afraid of triggering the other one. And to me, I'm like, what's the point? So you're looking for companionship just to go do things? Like, a relationship is about growing, at least for me, and evolving. And are we going to evolve together or are we going to just hang out? I don't know. It just depends on what kind of relationships you want, I guess. Salvo saying, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to imply that you were a therapist. I was speaking in general terms. I think that I think that there's a lot of misunderstandings of therapists. Hey, Patrick, this is a place of grace and ease. And if you don't have any questions, you could keep moving. You don't need to put those types of comments in there. Salvo is saying you were desensitized by the end of the show. No, I was neutral. Neutrality is very different than desensitized. Neutrality is about managing your emotions, having awareness of them, allowing them to be there, feeling them, and compassionately witnessing. It's very different than what you're suggesting, Salvo. But I could see where you would say that. It's not about being desensitized. It's about having an awareness of your feelings and being able to stay neutral so you can actually change situations. How much do I charge my clients? You can check out my website, kiannaa.com, Kiannaa. And if you reach out, I have a special offer for September for first-time people. Sparkplug is saying, thank you for your help. I really appreciate you helping us with all of your meaningful and thoughtful answers. Thank you so much, Sparkplug. I'm so glad that you're here. And I put on your notifications. I am on here every day answering questions and also with a different topic. How does emotional intelligence play in the role? How does emotional intelligence play a role in the process of forgiving someone? Well, I think when we understand that forgiveness, well, first of all, CA, that's a very thoughtful question. And I want to give you a very honest answer because a lot of people think forgiveness is about the other person. They think it's about they did something to me, I must forgive them. But really, it's about allowing yourself to align to a place of peace and ease. And when we harbor hard feelings or hateful feelings or discordant feelings about other people within ourselves, that only distorts our perception. So for example, when somebody hates somebody, I'll just use that, or somebody was betrayed by somebody and they hold on to that, they harbor that, that impacts you emotionally and hold on one second, I need to check something here. Sorry about that. I had to turn, it's hot in here. I was going back to forgiveness, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. So forgiveness, and this goes back to what Peter was saying about the outside influencing the inside. The outside does influence the inside, but the outside is also a reflection of the inside. So when we are getting things and patterns and repetition on the outside, we want to look at them so we can heal what's happening inside, because we are actually constantly attracting, right? So we are in resonance. We have a frequency. We send out signals all the time. Even though you may not understand it, your emotional body has a signaling system to it. And that is more powerful than your mental signaling system by a long shot. So when you are in a space of forgiveness, that is a space of allowing and acceptance. And that helps you as well as the other people, but it helps you more than it helps the other people. So I think you don't need to go and tell people you forgive them, although you can. It's about really allowing yourself grace. There. Staying neutral, would I consider that stoicism? Absolutely not. Staying neutral, so neutrality has a frequency, and that frequency is the 0-point frequency. And that frequency is also known as the God frequency. So that is absolutely not stoicism. It's a space of pure acceptance. It means that you are seeing, witnessing, experiencing what is. And when you could be in that space from a place of neutrality, what you are opening yourself up to is potentials. You can't have potentials when you're in your mind, because potentials don't signal from your mind. They signal from your heart and your bodies. So we need to understand that our mind definitely can influence our signaling in a negative way or a positive way, but either way, we're always signaling. But most people don't understand that the signals that they're sending is also a resonance. So I'll give you an example of this. So I have an associate who is also very, very insecure woman. She is always questioning herself, how she looks, how she's perceived, whether people like her or not. And she repeatedly attracts people into her life who will betray her constantly because she's signaling that betrayal all the time. That's a resonance. Loving Dean, the God Machine, says you need emotional intelligence to forgive, or just the awareness to forgive. You don't need emotional intelligence to forgive. You could just have an awareness that that's the right thing to do, and that's not necessarily emotional intelligence, that's just awareness. There's a lot of people who have levels of awareness that is not necessarily hooked into the emotional intelligence. And I think that's a good distinction that you're saying, Loving Dean, because there's a lot of people who are book smart. They have the language, but they don't have the emotional component of the heart open because they've been hurt or for whatever reason. Peter is saying, I really appreciate you taking time to dive into this topic. I struggle with EQ. My entire upbringing was based on performance, IQ, hard skills, and rewarding, punishing behavior or conduct. Yes, Peter, you're not alone in that. And I think you would enjoy, Peter, I really do think you would enjoy that book that I suggested. What book was that? When the Body Says No. And also, I think that just practicing feeling your feelings and getting curious about your feelings. What am I feeling? What if I don't feel anything? Well, then go into your body and what sensations. You want to feel, sense, and know all the time. And then, Peter, what you do is you merge your head and your heart, and that's where the power is. When you have that high intellect with a heart that's open, receptive, aware, power. Should I forgive bad people, antisocial personality types? Well, how about don't even judge people? Why do they have to be good or bad? Just let people be who people are. And not everybody who's antisocial is a personality type. They may not just like being around people who are judging them. Eric, you have a court date in October. Okay, well, good luck with that. Bear is agreeing with me that antisocial doesn't mean bad people. They just don't attune to the expectations of society. I would say I'm not antisocial, but I am an introvert, and which you probably couldn't tell by seeing these lives every day. But I do not enjoy being around large groups of people, and I really don't enjoy meaningless conversations. I would rather talk to you all. Heather, I don't know what you're saying about soul-ish. I'm all about Christ consciousness. Not so much about the Bible and traditional religions. That's not for me. Nobody 7. I feel like being antisocial is the best way to avoid drama. That is definitely a way to avoid it. Feel like I could be wrong on the way I've been. I don't enjoy drama either, but you could be around drama and not engage in it. And that's really about being conscious and making conscious choice. Like, I'm going to join in on this conversation. I'm not going to join in on this conversation. This is not worth my energy. This is worth my energy. Pablo, no, I am not an attorney. I practice energy psychology. CA, what is your question here? How about people who are introverts or extroverts regarding emotional intelligence? You could be introvert or extroverts. Those are just simply preferences. Those are not anything other than a preference. So anybody could be have emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is a willingness to allow yourself to be aligned within. Hey, Barry from Scotland. All right, y'all, this has gone on for over an hour here. I hope you found this supportive in your journey to being in sync. My name is Kiana Sage, and I guide people to peace. I hope you have a great day. I am here every day for this year talking about the natural laws and behaviors that align us to the natural laws. And we'll be here again tomorrow for another video of the Being in Sync 366 video series. I hope you have a great day. Cheers to being in sync and being in alignment. Bye.